All right, here today to talk about my student growth paper. This was a semester-long project that I had as part of my student teaching internship. It was really one of the more enjoyable things that I did, but it was actually one of the most frustrating assignments that I've always had, simply because I had to get students to turn work in, I had to get students used to writing, and it was a project that just took a lot more time than I anticipated at the beginning of the semester. Alright, to give you a little bit of context about the school that I was placed at, this school is about 90% white. It is a suburban high school with about 1,200 students, and it's located in very much so a working class neighborhood. There are some elites in the area. There are some people from very rich suburbs around that don't make up the majority of the population. Overall, solidly working class. Like I discussed in my paper, it's not a place where college attendance is necessarily expected. Many students from the high school do go on to places like Virginia Tech. They've had students recently go to Ivy League schools, UVA, and other schools in the state. But for the majority of the students, the local community colleges, going into the military, trade schools, things like ECPI, are the really popular route. So it's kind of a very different context than what I am used to being in. It's similar in demographics to the high school I went to, but the impact is different because the classes that I was in were not the students who were primarily college bound. Little instructional technology. The school's undergoing a full renovation right now that will solve that, but the school doesn't have much in the way of technology. I was in 4 different classrooms because of the renovation and had a cart to go between them, some classes out in the trailer. And in terms of technology that we had, every classroom had an Elmo projector, not an Elmo projector like that one, an Elmo projector like the 1960s Elmo projectors overheads that were bought during the Johnson administration that my teacher loved to talk about how they predated all of us in the school building. Whiteboards, chalkboards, we had a total of about 6 LCD projectors in the school that were owned by the school. Some teachers had bought their own, but we really didn't have a lot in the way of technology to work with. However, most of the students do have school-issued laptops. That gives you just a little bit of an idea of where I was working. Now, within one classroom, I did all of the writing assignments that I used for the paper. Both students came from the same class. I did writing with all of the classes that I taught, but this class was the one that I ended up getting the best and most complete examples from. 11th grade U.S. history starting out about 1898 with the Spanish-American War. Smallest class I had, 20 students. 19 of them were white, no ELLs, but about 25% special ed, and this class was taught full-time with a special ed teacher. The class was not apathetic. There are students in there that care, but they're not overachievers. They're not looking to go to college by and large. They're not looking to completely blow you away with their work. They're really looking just to get through. And I think this class is pretty representative of the school as a whole in terms of socioeconomic status. They're from all over the district. Work ethic, just a pretty good idea of what they're like. Alright, my primary objective this semester was SOL-based instruction. That was something that my teacher made very clear to me on the first day and every day that I was at my internship. And I wanted to really enhance the SOL instruction. Preparing students with life skills, particularly the idea of global citizenship, ability to communicate, and all of the things that fall under the NCSS themes. Of course, also have secondary objectives, and I think these really relate back to everything that is why we entered education. Sharing knowledge, Seeing history as contested, something that's enjoyable, something that you can fight over, argue about. Skills, structure, effective communication and self-expression, things that students don't necessarily have in this day and age. Alright, my first prompt, early March, American Imperialism Unit with the Spanish-American War. I used this as a baseline writing assessment. I just wanted to see where I was at, was just interested to see how students wrote, wanted to see how they understood decisions to be made. And for this, like all my writing prompts, my main materials were just class notes and the course textbook. The second prompt was with the World War II unit. This was actually part of my unit plan. I wanted to understand historical empathy, decision making, balancing some evidence, and trying to make a moral judgment on what happened, but having students recognize they live in a different time period, things are going to be different. Again, same materials with the class notes and the course textbook. And then my final writing assignment was with the Cold War, and I took this prompt just 2.5 weeks ago with the Cold War unit at the very relatively end of the student teaching internship. Again, balancing evidence with historical decisions, and then challenging students to see what containment really looks like and the impacts of what it really was. Same materials again, but I structured all three of the writing assignments so that you were writing from a context other than your own, just to see what happened, and to really force students to think differently. The background of the two students whose writing samples that I used for this project. This was student A, 16-year-old white female student. She has an IEP, she struggles with reading a lot. She tries really hard, enjoys school, but her reading skills have really held her back in terms of achieving. She's generally very pleasant in class. Student B, 17-year-old white female. She doesn't have an IEP. She'd like to go into education as a career. She's a pretty standard level reader, not above grade level, not below, and generally likes school. I did have a couple of issues with the student during the middle of the semester who started skipping. But these were the two students that I worked with. All right, outcomes. Student A, not a strong reader to begin with. She started out fairly weak. Her first essay had a lot to improve in terms of spelling, grammar, overall structure. Historical facts in the first one were generally pretty weak. Lots of misunderstandings.